So, just finished our move down to Oregon. So, first things first, if you're in the Oregon area and you're interested in any type of firearms training from basic to advanced, be on the lookout for my schedule here. I'll have it up in the next month or so. We're still ironing out a few things. I'll have that on here and then my other social media channels. But, sort of to ring in the move in this beautiful day we have outside, I figured what better time to do a super controversial video that's going to piss a lot of people off and get hate in the comment section for sure. So why am I doing this video? Well, by far the most common comment or some variation of this comment that I get is, how do you justify the things you did as a special forces operator on behalf of this evil, corrupt federal government, right? Or I would never let my children serve on behalf of, evil elites. At a time when the number one song in the country is, Richmond, north of Richmond. Yeah, I get it. I get where the sentiment is coming from. So let me address that, right? How do I sort of justify things? Well, first I have to acknowledge whether I agree with that perspective or not, right? Is the government corrupt and evil and all these different things? Well, I'm not going to say anything that's going to immediately get this video pulled off YouTube, which should tell you all you need to know right there. The fact that there's no freedom of speech on a platform like this, right? And that's on behalf of the social media conglomerates and the government and all these things. So, if 2020 and beyond didn't open your eyes to the fact that every single thing that was said and done, 100% of them by the government, was a lie. They lied to you purposefully and knowingly. And you still can look at the system right now and say, nope, it's all good. I trust the government. Well, I would suggest you turn this video off, bury your head back down in the sand, and get CNN back on, right? Because you are well behind the curve of what's going on, right? And if you don't like me saying that, that's too bad. All right, so wake up. Time to wake up, okay? So obviously the system is wildly corrupt. And, the government showed its hand since 2020. They played their cards. We all know it. They know it. We know it. It is what it is. So how do we justify then serving this government? Well, I would say hindsight is 2020, okay? So from my generation, you have to understand that we are the post 9/11 sort of service member generation, right? So a good portion of us, majority of us, joined shortly to a few years after 9/11 within that decade, at a time of, huge levels of patriotism and nationalism, love of country, right? And this big narrative of the war on terror, and all these things. So it's easy to look at things after what we know now and say, oh, how could you? If you transport yourself back to society, America at that time, nobody really was really paying attention, I guess, is the way. I wouldn't say that nobody knew, right? Because plenty of people were ringing the alarm about a lot of these things, but people weren't really paying attention, and myself included. So no excuse, right? We should have been, but it is what it is. So the other one I'll say is, how do you justify it? Well, I'm not naive, and none of the guys I worked with are really naive. And, even back in 2018, this is well before the craziness of the last 4 years happened, in Afghanistan, we'd be looking around at each other like, what are we doing here, right? Like, Al-Qaeda's been gone for a decade. ISIS is pretty much destroyed at this point. The Taliban have no interest in foreign policy other than us leaving, right? And we're spending tens of hundreds of billions of dollars here, fighting people in caves. Does this make any sense? Not really, right? So at that point, the way your combat fighter is looking at it, right, is not in the interest of the mission. Okay, we just really didn't care. Some guys might say that that's not true, but what we really cared about is the people to our left and our right, right? All we really cared about is that my teammates and my brothers got home to their spouses and their children. That's it. That's the ultimate goal, right? The mission, and it is what it is, whatever. It's not like we were fighting the Nazis and the entire fate of humanity was resting on this mission, right? So that's what I would say is as a takeaway, right? Is also, for me, even today, right? I am a patriot through and through. I love this country. I love America. I love the idea of America. I love the idea of freedom. All of those things that just because the system may be basically swamped over and corrupt doesn't mean that the country necessarily is as well, right? The people and the government, if you think about it, we the people versus the government, really that's the big thing right now. That you still are serving in the capacity of serving the people, right? More so than you're really there to serve the government. Kind of a complex thing, hard to unpack, but so would I suggest, to other people to now in 2023, knowing what we know about what we do and the things going on in this country. And again, we can't get into details because they'll just, they'll just ban your account if you do that. So, which is crazy to think about. But would I suggest people serving at this point? Well, or your kids serving? I would still say yes, right? I'd say, 99% of people in the military will never really have anything to do from a strategic level with what the government is actually deciding to do. And there's still awesome opportunities being in the military that really people don't realize, especially in this economy and what's going on. The fact that you can, serve 3 years and have your education paid for, which people are going $100,000 into debt for, is that alone is pretty amazing when it comes to opportunities. And then doing a whole career in an advanced field like I did in Special Forces, obviously that translates really well into the civilian world as well. So you can't look at it just from a perspective of government bad, so no work for the government, right? The government is basically, the sum of all its parts is sort of where we get this evil sort of bureaucracy monster that rears its head. Not really so much, the individual people, the individual parts of the government that are causing that. So I hope that sort of gives you an idea of sort of, I guess, how I justify my service. Again, it's sort of a complicated thing, but I don't want people to think that, I'm naive about, what we did and what we do and anything like that. So, if you disagree with that and you think the government is, out there doing their best work and doing a good job, then feel free to leave your hate in the comment section. All right, guys, have a good day.